up, y'all? Welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on The Lion King 2019, which I just saw today. I love the original Lion King, so this film had a lot of was curious about it. So let's go ahead and start talking about it right now. When it comes to Disney remakes, it can either go sort of two ways. You can go sort of the Jungle Book way, where you take like the characters and sort of the premise of the original movie, but you add your own spin when it comes to the story, how scenes play out, the roles certain characters play out, all that kind of stuff to make it feel different enough from the original. Or you could go sort of the Beauty and the Beast way, where it's really just sort of like a carbon copy of the original animated film, like scene for scene, shot for shot, all that kind of stuff. Basically everything that's in the original film is in the live action remake. And based on the trailers for The Lion King, it was very obvious which category this was going to fall into. Just first off that first teaser trailer, it was just all like, oh man, this is going to be like a real just sort of shot for shot remake right here. Then you got to the second trailer and it's all like, oh man, they're not even trying with this. And I know the director, Jon Favreau, he came out and said, no, don't worry guys, this is not going to be just sort of a shot for shot live action remake. But based on all those trailers, we kind of knew. And after sort of seeing the movie, it's kind of like, yeah, boy, you kind of lied on that one right here. Now, when it comes to going to the approach with sort of doing sort of a shot for shot remake, that can end up being sort of a good thing for your movie, but it could also lead to a whole lot of bad things for your movie. And when it comes to sort of the bad stuff, to me, doing sort of a shot-for-shot remake, your movie just ends up coming across as just kind of lazy, to be honest. When you're watching scenes play out exactly how they played out in the original, when it came to sort of the camera work, the dialogue, all that kind of stuff, it's just all like, man, this is lazy. And when you're watching it, it's just kind of like, you know what, there must have been sort of a different direction you could have gone with this to make it feel just sort of fresh, draw inspiration, but not just do like a carbon copy of the dialogue and stuff like that. That's what I enjoyed a lot about The Jungle Book and Cinderella, a couple of sort of the best Disney live action remakes, because obviously they took inspiration from the story and all that stuff, but scenes sort of played out differently, and it wasn't just sort of a carbon copy of the dialogue. And something that I actually liked about those movies is that they actually tried to improve upon the original in terms of improving upon sort of the original's faults, stuff that wasn't all that great when those movies were made. Now, granted, The Lion King is a film with not a whole lot of faults. I mean, it's definitely one of the best Disney movies ever made. Definitely one of my favorites. It's in probably my top five. What am I talking about? It's probably my number one. So obviously, there's not a whole lot of faults to sort of find in The Lion King to improve on. But that still doesn't mean you can't just go in and sort of add a different spin to certain scenes or add new scenes. One of the things I liked most about this movie while I was watching it is watching scenes that weren't in the original. It was stuff that was sort of adding to the movie experience. Just some stuff they add, like sort of Nala's escape from Pride Rock. Those were scenes where I'm all like, okay, this is stuff that's adding to the movie, adding to the original story, and just making it feel like a better movie-going experience overall. Doing a carbon copy of the original movie can make the movie that you're making just feel really kind of flat, especially if you don't capture scenes the way they were in the original. One of the biggest offenders is the Be Prepared scene, one of the best Disney villain songs of all time. You watch it in this movie, it's just like, oh man, this is not working right here. Y'all just didn't even try to do this scene right at all. And to call this a live action remake, you should say live action in quotes, because this is basically just a really big photorealistic animated movie right here. The Jungle Book was a live action remake because you actually had a live action kid in there playing Mowgli. But with this movie, this whole thing was shot, basically, it could have been just shot in front of a computer, just because it's just a whole bunch of animated environments that granted look good, but this is definitely not a live action remake in the traditional sense. So that's what ends up being bad when it comes to doing a live action remake, or going sort of the carbon copy way when it comes to a live action remake. But what inevitably ends up turning out being the good thing about going the carbon copy route is that you're drawing just for some really great source of material, and to see it play out in live action admittedly is kind of cool. As people, as fans of The Lion King and Disney animated films, I mean, we've seen these films a whole bunch of time, and to see it play out in live action admittedly can be kind of cool when you're seeing all the cool sort of Hollywood production and all the different stuff they can do. And just the reasons it's sort of cool watching it in this movie is just because the visual effects are absolutely spectacular. The visual effects in this movie are just amazing. It's visual effects that are on par with The Jungle Book from a few years ago, also directed by Jon Favreau. Just really great stuff when it comes to the rendering, the photorealistic look of the animals, Just great stuff to watch all these scenes, and just in terms of how beautiful these visuals end up looking. Combined with sort of the good visual work done with the animals, was actually, I thought the cast did a very good job when it came to the voice work for this film. Standouts are like Chiwetel Ejiofor, the guy who plays Scar. In a lot of the scenes, he ends up sounding just like Jeremy Irons from the original film, just in terms of the vocal mannerism, stuff like that, where I'm like, okay, he's really doing a good job. Granted, there were a whole lot of scenes, a few scenes where his voice got a little too high, where it just didn't sound right for sort of the characterization of Scar. But overall, I think he did a really good job. And some other people in the cast, like Donald Glover, Beyonce, they ended up doing a good job in their roles as Simba and Nala. But the two standouts definitely for me were the guys who did the voices of Timon and Pumbaa. The guy who does the voice of Pumbaa is Seth Rogen, that's just perfect casting for Pumbaa. And the person who does the voice for Timon is an actor I had never heard of. It's Billy something. I can't exactly remember the name. But both of them ended up just working really good as Timon and Pumbaa. And in all honesty, these two ended up sealing the show. The characters, Timon and Pumbaa, ended up sealing the show more than they did in the original movie, if you can believe that. These guys, just when they were on screen, the scenes, the dialogue they had, it was just so much fun and just really entertaining to watch, including a scene with Timon and Pumbaa that adds sort of a different spin on the hula scene from the original movie. It is that good, that funny. Probably the biggest laugh I had in the movie, for sure. And while I thought they butchered the Be Prepared number, a lot of the renditions and sort of remade scenes of the songs from the original movie, I thought ended up actually were pretty damn good. And that's just because those are just really great songs. But the way they did them and see them play out in live action was actually really cool. Can't Wait to Be King was really fun. Hakuna Matata was really good. And Can You Feel the Love Tonight? All those three songs, in terms of doing them in live action in this movie, ended up actually working out pretty well in terms of how they played out and sort of how they treated those scenes with respect, and actually in some cases ended up doing some things differently from the original film. So that was definitely a positive also. In the end, The Lion King is just sort of an epic story that I'll always enjoy seeing. And as long as if you remake it, as long as you can have some level of quality, and this movie definitely has it when it comes to the visuals, and there definitely were some scenes, some stuff they added that definitely was like, okay, some of this is a little bit fresh, even though it was sort of shot-for-shot remake. The story ends up just being, it's just an enjoyable story to watch, no matter how many times you see it play out. So despite all the shit I talked about at the beginning of this video, this was a movie I actually ended up enjoying sort of a decent amount. I mean, it's The Lion King. It's a story I enjoy watching. And there was some stuff to this movie that it brought to the table, like I said, mainly the visuals, that made it sort of ended up being a remake I enjoyed watching a pretty decent amount. So in terms of score, I'd probably give it like a 7 or 7.5 out of 10. It's in that range of just being like it was just sort of a movie that I had a fair amount of time enjoying watching. By the end, I was like, hey, that was sort of like a crowd-pleasing movie right there. And if you want to know the audience reaction, the audience that I saw it with, they definitely enjoyed the movie also. Definitely bopping their heads when those classic songs pop up. They got a whole lot of laughs from the movie, and you can just tell it's just sort of that sort of crowd-pleasing family movie that I think is going to end up doing just killer business. If you want a recent comparison in terms of like how I compare it to like Aladdin from a couple months ago, I actually enjoyed this a little bit more than Aladdin, which I thought was a solid remake also. This one I thought was just like on a little bit better. So in my opinion, it's in that sort of upper half of Disney live action remakes. Not on the level of The Jungle Book, but nowhere near the disaster of some stuff of like sort of Alice in Wonderland, if you want my opinion on stuff like that. I've got more videos to come when it comes to ranking all the films in sort of the Disney live action cinematic universe. And I've also got a video coming up where I talk about sort of the films, or show the films I want to see made in live action going forward, and top 10 list for both of those. So look out for those ones. I hope you guys enjoyed this video right here, and thank you for watching.